Hey guys, so in this tutorial we will see how we can deploy a simple Flask Hello World application using Docker. So in this tutorial, first we will install the Docker. Second, then we will basically create a simple Hello World Flask application, and at the third, which is the last part, how we can deploy the Flask application using the Docker engine. So let's move to the first part, installing the Docker. So now for installing the Docker, we need to go to a website docs.docker.com. So at the bottom here you will see there are three options available for Mac, for Windows, and for Linux. So whatever OS you are using, so you can click on that particular part and just follow those steps. So I'm using Mac, so I will click the Docker desktop for Mac, and here there's a button called download from Docker Hub. So it will basically download that particular application from the Docker Hub itself. But before that you need to log into the Docker Hub because it asks for the Docker Hub credentials. So if you have the Docker Hub credentials, then it's good. If it's not there, then just create the Docker Hub account, and after that click the download from Docker Hub. So I am already logged in, so it will you can see Sanrak Chaudhary, and so an option is available here, get Docker. Once I click this option, so it will download the application on my system, and I just need to follow the installation steps for the same. Once it is done, so you can simply, so I've already installed this Docker desktop on my MacBook. So once you have done all these steps for the Linux or for Windows, you can simply check the Docker by running this command docker hyphen version. Oh, sorry. So now you can see Docker version 19.03.8 is the latest version. So at the time of this recording, this is the latest version which I have downloaded. Now the second part, so the installation of the Docker is done. So now the second part is creating a Flask application. So to create a Flask application, first I will create a directory. Flask underscore app will be the directory name. Now here I will create a virtual environment for my Flask project. So it's better to have a virtual environment on your projects to basically to define, let's say if you have 3 or 4 projects, just create a different virtual environments for all the 3 or 4 projects, so that you can differentiate between the projects libraries and project Python version as well. So let's create a virtual environment. So I'm using virtual env for the same virtual env, and after that I'm passing the virtual env name, so that is env. You can use any of the name like env, pyenv, whatever name you like. So I'm using env. So now it will create a virtual environment. uh, so now let's see. So it has created a directory which is venv, and in this particular directory all the Python files are there. So now let's activate this virtual environment. Source venv bin activate. So the virtual environment has been activated. So you can see there's a venv there, and in the round brackets you can simply check the Python version for the virtual environment, Python minus capital V. So in this virtual environment Python 3.7.7 is installed. And if you need to check whether this particular Python interpreter is being called from this virtual environment, you can simply check by which Python. This command will run on Linux and MacBook. For Windows you need to check in the CMD, or just check for the python.exe, which from where it is being called. So if you see on running this which Python command, so it is showing venv here. So it is being called from the venv bin directory. So the Python interpreter is being called from this directory. So that means the Python is being called from the virtual environment. Now we have installed the virtual environment. Now the second part is to basically install the certain packages which is required by our project. So for creating a particular Flask project, we need a Flask package. So to install this package we use pip command for that. So I'm writing a pip install and the package name. So I'm installing simply a Flask package. Now the Flask package is installed on my virtual environment. Now I will create a simple Flask application or simple Python file which is for a Flask application. So I'm using Vim editor. You can use any of the IDE. Vim space resource.py. Here I will call from Flask package import Flask class. Then I'm creating a Flask object here, Flask underscore name, dunder name. Sorry. So here I've created the Flask object. Now I will define the routes, Flask routes or the URLs. So I need to mention a decorator here by app.route and the base URL. So I'm using simply the base URL. You can define any of the URL you like hello. If you basically want to execute this particular function, so using the hello URL, you can simply write hello. I'm using simply a base URL for this, and I'm defining a function here with the name of index. You can use any of the name, index, dashboard, home, whatever you like. And in this particular function, I'm returning a hello world as a dictionary, hello as a key, and world as a dictionary, oh sorry, value for that particular key. And at the bottom I will basically write a main, so that whenever I execute this resource.py, it will call that particular main thing and execute the Flask application. So for the main, I just need to write a magic dunder keywords like dunder name and dunder main. So whenever I execute this resource.py file, so this value of the particular name, dunder name, will be set to underscore main. So here I need to run the Flask application. So for that I need to run app.run, and in the bracket I can pass several options like debug equals to true, so that if any of the Flask error occurs, so I can simply check it on the web browser itself. So if the debug is equals to true, then it will show the error on the browser itself. And one important thing, whenever you are deploying this application to the production, you just need to turn on off, basically turn off this flag to false. So you just need to write debug equals to false. Now the second part will be host. So I just need to basically use some particular host, so that on which particular host this application will be executed. So I'm using 0.0.00 because this is a kind of a wildcard IP address that will match any possible incoming port on the host machine. So we will use only this particular IP address from the if you are running or if you are deploying this application on Docker. Okay, and by default the port will be 5000, but let's say if I'm um, overriding the port, I will let's say run this Flask application on 5050. By default the port number will be 5000, so I am just overriding that particular port. Now let's save it and run this particular file, resource.py. So you will see it's showing you a warning like this is a development server, do not use it in the production environment, and this is the particular IP. Now let's run this particular IP. So here you will see a hello world is being returned from here. So I'm using a JSON plugin for my Firefox browser, so that's why it is showing it as in the very beautiful format. But if you do not have that such plugin installed on your browser, it will show you the dictionary in this particular format. So we have successfully created a simple Flask application. Now we will run it using the Docker. So for basically creating a Docker image or Docker container, first you need to basically create its image, then we will execute that image to create a container for the same. Now for the Docker image or Docker environment thing, it's a kind of a virtual environment. So there are certain steps need to be performed before running the application, like installing the OS, the base layer, which will be the base layer, installing the certain packages like Python, and installing the Flask package on that particular virtual environment. Then we'll execute the our application resource.py or a Flask application. So to create the Docker image, so we will need to write a file for that. So it will be known as Docker file. So this is the particular name, Docker file with D capital. And in this Docker file, we will mention the OS. So what will be the base layer? We will use the Ubuntu as a base layer, and we will use the latest tag for the same. Basically, we will use the latest Ubuntu image, whatever image is being there on the Docker Hub website. So it will download the latest Ubuntu from there. They will perform some basically some certain steps or the post steps after installing the OS, like updating the repository of the OS, the installation repository. So we will use apt get update -y. So this will update the repository. Then we need to install the Python with pip. So for that we will run apt get install -y python -pip python -dev and build essential. Okay, then we need to copy the, so before this step our base layer is set up, our Python environment is set up. Now we just need to copy the data of our current directory to the Docker environment. So for that we will copy the data of current directory. So for current directory we will use dot, and where we need to copy, so we need to copy to basically this directory, app directory on the Docker. So once this is done, we have copied the data from our current directory to app directory of Docker. Now we need to execute certain steps after we have basically copied the data, like running the Python application. So for that we need to set up our work dir, the working directory. So basically we have copied all the data to app directory. So we will set the working directory as app, so that whenever the Docker machine will be started or the Docker container will be started, our app directory will be the default directory for the same. Now here we need to perform certain steps like installing the packages. Our Python environment is done. Now we need to install the package like Flask or whatever packages we need in our Flask application. So for that we just need to write Python pip install Flask. But here the issue here is that, let's say if I'm using multiple packages, that means I've installed multiple packages like Flask, Pandas, NumPy, whatever packages I like. So I need to write all those commands here. So I just need to write run pip install Flask, then in the next line run pip install Pandas, run pip install NumPy. So basically to get rid over this, I just need to create a simple requirements.txt file and just mention the Flask package here, and whatever packages I like I just need to mention in the requirement.txt file. And in the Docker file I can simply use -r requirements.txt. So here we have copied the current directory data to app, which contains requirement.txt file itself. Then we have moved to that particular directory /app. Then we have installed the requirements.txt, whatever packages we have mentioned in the requirement.txt. It will install all those packages in the Python environment. Then we will set the entry point for our application. So the entry point will be Python. Now with Python, what command I need to run? So I need to run the command like resource.py, which I have run here as well. So before uh, I've executed the Flask application like Python space resource.py. So simply I've done the same here. I've set the Python as an entry point, and for that particular entry point, what will be the command? Resource.py will be the command. So now our Docker file has been created. Now we need to build the image using this Docker file. So for building up the image, so before building the image, now let's see what all images are there in my current system. So for that, docker image ls will be the command. So there are no images currently on my system, and let's see what all containers are running or stopped or exit out on my local system. So for that I will simply run docker container ls. So if I'm running docker container ls, it will show me only those containers which are in running state. So there are no containers running, so it will show as an empty. And now if I need to see what all containers are got exit out or are got stopped, so I just need to pass -a. So with -a it will give me a list of all the container whether it is running or not running or got exit out. So there are no such containers exit out or running on my local system. Now I'm in the same directory, so that py we command.t, and now we need to build the image. So to build the image, docker build -t for the tag, and here we will pass the our image name, a docker image name. So let's say if I'm using flask underscore tutorial, that will be my image name, and I just need to pass some tag to that. For the passing the tag, we just need to use colon, and after colon we will pass the tag, like I'm passing latest. If you do not pass the tag, it will by default use the latest tag. And which docker file it need to be executed, so the docker file is in the same directory, so I will just pass dot. So dot will with the help of dot, it will understand that I just need to use the docker file which is uh, there in the current directory. And if it's in the some other directory, you just need to pass the directory name, like in app something app docker files, and in this particular folder, if the docker files are there, then you just need to pass the docker file directory. So it's in the same directory, so I'm passing dot. So it will take a bit. So I'm basically downloading the Ubuntu for the latest. So let's say if you need some other version of Ubuntu, so you can simply go to the Docker Hub website, dockerhub.com. Go to Ubuntu, click the official image of Ubuntu. So you will see there are view on clicking the view available tags, it will show you all the tags available. So I'm using the latest tag, so that's why it has basically pulled up this particular image. This is the command for that. And now if I need to use some other image for the Ubuntu, so I can simply pass the image tags like rolling, focal, this one. There are certain other tags available like bionic. This is the Ubuntu for 2.04 to 19.10. So which version you like, you can simply pass the version. If you do not know the version, you can simply pass the latest, or remove, or you can simply pass Ubuntu. So it will pick, or it will fetch the latest image for that particular repo or image. So it has downloaded the image. Now here it is basically running the apt-get update command. Here it is running the basically installation of Python. See, the Python is getting installed here. Now here it is copied the data, setting up the work directory, install the requirement.txt file. So basically it has installed the Flask package. So you can simply set the entry point, set the command. So now if you see, it has successfully created the image. So you can simply check that with the docker image ls. So now you can see Flask tutorial has been created. This is the image name which we have given, and this is the tag which we have given to that particular image. It has also downloaded the Ubuntu, so that's why Ubuntu is also here. Now if you see the container part, so nothing is there. So that's why, that means only the image has been created, but it has not been executed yet. So to basically start the image, or to execute the image, or to run the image, we just need to write docker run -d. -d is for the detach mode, or kind of a background mode. If you do not pass -d, so it will show you all the data or all the logs on your terminal itself. So if you need to basically run this particular application in the background, so you can simply pass -d, and here I'm using some ports. The -p is for publish. So on which port this application need to be published. So I'm publishing this application on the 5050 port. So this is the port which I will use on my host machine, and this is the port which is there on the container. So I have basically defined the Flask application for this particular port, so that's why I've written 5050 there, and I just need to execute this Flask application on my local machine using the same port itself. So that's why I'm written 5050:50, and space, I just need to write the basically the repository name or the image name here. So my image name is flask underscore tutorial. So this is the container ID. This is the very long container ID. So now it has been executed and it's being running on the container side. So you can simply check docker container ls, and it is being displayed as the container ID. So this is the same container ID. Image, it is running this particular image. This is the command. So I have executed the same command earlier, when I just need to write the execute the Flask application. This is the time of this particular image creation. Status is this container is up since 12 seconds. This is the basically the host and the port. Okay, now let's check whether it's running on the okay, perfect. So it is running on the same URL. So you can see I can simply execute, or I can simply execute this on the localhost URL as well. So that's the basically the wildcard IP. So you can that is by default map with the default localhost IP. So you can simply access this application using the localhost colon 5050. So you can simply access the data, and the hello world data is being displayed here. So that's all in this tutorial. So first we have installed the Docker engine on our local system. Then we have created simply a Flask application, a hello world application. Then we have deployed the same application using Docker. First we have created the image, then we have started or executed that particular image. So now for any questions, just let me know. Just you can simply note it down in the comment section. Thank you very much.